Hey guys, welcome back. Sports with Mono Imano. It's May 7th, 2019. Steve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show.
So obviously we have to start with the Kentucky Derby because it was quite an event, quite an unbelievable circumstance. First time in 145 years it's ever happened. Um, what are your thoughts? Because my initial thought, Steve, is I didn't see anything blatant. I didn't see it intentional, and it was a terrible track.
You know, it,
Rained for 5 days beforehand, and I don't know. I just think it was certainly unprecedented, no question about it.
well, of course, the byline for the Kentucky Derby is the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, which then went to the most exciting 26 minutes in sports. But my story was, sitting in a bar with my brother Tom, who we've referenced on the show, my nephew. And actually, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Di Filippi's Bakery. The owner, Carmela, actually came down and joined us to watch the race. But as we're watching this race, like you said, the soup that the track was, did I see anything completely blatant watching this live? I don't think anybody did, to be honest with you, right? So you see maximum security pull away and win by, let's say 2 lengths, 2.5 lengths. And then you all turn and rip up your tickets and look at your cards, and I didn't have any winner, right? So now we just go back to talking, and then 5 minutes go by, and we're looking at the horse still standing there, and normally the bed of roses would be,
Thrust upon him.
right, draped around the neck area, and then you go into the celebration, but 5 minutes then turns into 10 minutes.
And that's when you knew something was going on.
And you see in this replay over and over and over. And, it, like you said, it's never happened before in the 145 years of this most prestigious race. And 22 minutes go by. My brother even made the comment, no way they are going to disqualify the winner of the Kentucky Derby. But I tell you, after 22 minutes, they've looked at it 1,000 times. It took 22 minutes.
Yep.
I guess by the letter of racing rules that the horse did veer off. But like you said, nothing blatant by where.
And we're not stewards here, so
Right.
we're.
But it's not like the jockey's using his right leg to kick the horse over, or
Got some electronic thing on him.
Some cattle prod. Movie reference to Casino, of course.
Reference. I think I knew where you were going.
Right, but the point is, I guess, at the end of the day, the letter of the law was, and again, I mean, for them to make this decision,
they knew what the consequences were
Right.
going to be. There was going to be an outrage, not only for the average fan that
but for
that
those holding tickets on maximum security and exacta boxes and trifectas and
threw the whole thing
threw
into
it completely out of whack.
chaos.
And what can you say, right? So, I really don't know what else to say on that other than both horses now, maximum security, we just found out that, basically a day ago, he ain't running in the Preakness. And now the Winter Country House was just scratched from the Preakness. So there will be no Triple Crown this year. And it's unfortunate. But, like I just said, I think for them to have the balls to make this decision, they looked at it 1,000 times. And I
But
guess
boy,
by
did
the
it
letter-
cause a lot of heartache for a lot of different people. And my opinion it was such a sloppy track that nothing jumped out at me. I don't think any of us sat there and watched the race and said, "Hey, wait a minute! He veered into his who could possibly have seen that?"
Right.
And
to your point, was it so blatant that this knock on the other horse could have caused a major spill? Because face it, there had to be 10 to 12 horses in that little pile coming around the stretch, right? That could have really been, one hell of a spill.
Oh,
But
and a good Larry Colmus call, who's he's the voice of big races and so forth. I didn't I didn't hear him reference anything either. But boy, look at the consequences of this, right? One of our listeners, George, picked Maximum Security. So let's call him the average Joe out there. And good pick, by the way, George. And now you're holding this ticket, and how many people ripped up their tickets?
right.
How many people for Country House ripped up their tickets?
That's what I think more of.
I mean, that thing paid $165.
Absolutely, and they were like the horse and animal house once they realized it. And Dean Wormer's office when the flare gun went off.
Oh God!
Right? Oh my God! And the point is that was a 65-1 horse too, which I think we talked before the show is either the most
Or the second most longest shot ever.
longest shot. So just an unusual set of circumstances, and to happen in racing's most prestigious race,
Yep.
it's just quite unique and unfortunate at the same time.
And I hate when it's like those conditions because it kind of throws everything off. My horse that I picked to win the race was Tacitus.
Yeah,
And he actually benefited, right? He ends up showing in the money,
right.
paid $5, $5.65 or something, which was good. But oh my goodness, what a shocking turn of events! And you, like you said, the most
Prestigious
prestigious event in sports.
Yeah.
I mean, from our perspective.
Right, so I don't know what else we can chime in other than we'd love to hear from our listeners, and if you have any, or actually, I think we'd like to hear from any of our listeners that had Country House and perhaps ripped up a ticket in frustration. But email us at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com.
Yep.
But we'd love to hear some observations. Anybody that really is into horse racing may have some observations that maybe the average Joe can't pick up on. So.
And we'll listen on our next show. We're certainly going to talk about the Preakness. The field will be certainly limited compared to what it was in the Derby. I think 21 horses is too many in the Derby, especially on a sloppy track. But we'll touch base on the Preakness and see who's coming. We know Maximum Security's not running, Country House is not running, so.
So your boy Tacitus may have an open shot at winning the Preakness.
I'm kind of guessing he's going to probably be the pre-Preakness favorite.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes.
Understandable.
But that was good stuff. Really, it was interesting, but
And controversial, and it's still going on. And a Maximum Securities owner, and I think they did an appeal, and they got shot down already. And I'm sure this guy will probably want to stay in the news, and you can go to the Supreme Court if you'd like.
and I saw
it ain't
actually,
getting overturned.
and I saw a comparison, like how unbelievable this was like to the '72 Olympics in hoops when
When the
the
U.S.
Russians got they got 4 chances to win the game.
You stole the Olympic gold medal from the United States. So.
Yeah, that was shocking. Collins makes those free throws, game's over, and
Yeah.
game's not over.
That's
As
right.
Yogi would say, not over till it's over. Well, that certainly
Applies.
applies on this one.
Right.
So let's move on to the NHL, which has been very, very exciting. And
It's been awesome, actually.
it really has
has.
been.
It's been intense, I gotta say. Especially, Columbus, Boston recently. It's just a hard-hitting affair. And you tip your hat to the Boston Bruins for prevailing. But a great hard-hitting series. Tied early, or Columbus was up 2-1. Boston comes roaring back. Tortorella, our good boy Johnny Torts, made that declaration. I think going into Game 6, it was a do or die. They have to win. But
There will be a Game 7.
and he guaranteed it, and there's only 2 people we can reference who have made those declarations. One, Mr. Messier and the New York Rangers, and of course Joe Namath of the '69 Jets are the 2 most famous prognosticators out there that actually came through.
Yeah.
But I credit Tortorella. He was doing anything he can to fire up his troops. And
Well, first of all, before we move on, let's point out the I guarantee it's who didn't do it. That was Ewing and Starks and who else? I guarantee it.
right.
Uh, Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and then let's switch gears to the local team in the playoffs, the New York Islanders, who are now been swept by the Carolina Hurricanes. And, again, my apologies to Carolina. I didn't really factor them in. I didn't think they'd get by Washington, especially in a Game 7.
I'm not sure I did either, obviously.
But I tell you what, they played a great defensive game or series for 4 games. Islanders were snake bit, hit some posts, and we talked about the Islanders being, I think they had, close to a 10-day layoff coming into this, so they were well rested. We talked about Carolina in a Game 7 battle, and then 48 hours later, it was a Sunday, I think Game 1 was in the afternoon, and what can you say? Carolina-Boston now will be fighting to go to the Stanley Cup, and out west, teams that we don't particularly see a whole lot. So you got San Jose and the Avalanche are actually going to Game 7 tomorrow, and you got the St. Louis Blues and Dallas.
I don't even know who to pick in that series, to be quite honest with you. The Avalanche Sharks, because it's been. I'm going to give the edge to the Stars. I think this guy Bishop. He's come up big before. He seems to be quite the money player, but. Wars. These are.
If I'm gonna, again, we're not gonna guarantee it like Torts, but I like San Jose. They'll be home for Game 7. I always like the home team in a Game 7 environment. Carolina aside.
Washington aside.
Yeah, well, Carolina winning at Washington is my point.
Right.
And I'll take the Blues. I think the Blues are due. So I'm going to look for a San Jose, St. Louis, and obviously Boston and Carolina have punched their ticket, and we'll see what happens.
I'm kind of old school that the Blues, they haven't sniffed it in our lifetime.
In our lifetime, they really haven't.
So I don't see, like I said, I felt the same way about when 25 years ago when Toronto Blue Jays made the World Series. They're not going to win anything, and they won what? Two?
Until
One?
Joe Carter hit the big home run.
Which was awesome.
Right.
But it's a great series. So, look for this. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out Carolina Bruins series. Whoa.
Yes, that will be a physical series. There's
Whoa.
No question.
It's going to be great.
And then, while we're on hockey, just, for our Ranger fans out there, there's a couple rumors going out there that because Glenn Sather has retired basically as president, I'm hearing tea leaves that John Davidson may be coming back to New York as team president. We'll see that. I think he's the president of St. Louis right now, so he can't obviously negotiate until they're done.
Or he was St. Louis. Now he's what, Columbus?
He was Columbus first, and now he's at St. Louis. And also, being Columbus got eliminated, this Arturi Panarin, who's a pretty good hockey player, just looked up his stats. He's got the 7th most points since maybe 2015 or 16. Started his career with the Blackhawks. But there's tea leaves on that, too, that he wants to be a New York Ranger. So that it would be a great addition to them. And also the Rangers made news last week or so. They signed this kid, Adam Fox, that I think some people need to look at, especially Ranger fans. I think he's a good addition. He's out of Harvard. He's a right defenseman. And what's unique about the kid is he's a New York, probably a Long Island kid, I think. But he got drafted twice. While in Harvard and held out and didn't sign with his respective draftees, and so the Rangers, waited patiently and only gave up like a 2nd-round pick in either this year or next year's draft. So
this is all in their whole master plan about rebuilding this
and they got
program.
The Rangers got the number 2 overall pick. So looks like they're not getting Jack Hughes, who I would like. The Devils have the number 1 pick. So this top American kid, Jack Hughes.
Was he the Hobie Baker winner? Or
he was. He's
finalist.
I think he's playing junior or something. But as an American, he's shattered like scoring records, and um, most likely the Devils will take him. So the second highest rated kid is a Finland winger, Capo Kanen, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's going to be solid too. So I think the future's bright for our New York Ranger fan base. We have to be a little more patient. Maybe a year or two down the road, things will turn. But
Well,
they're
because
going to be young.
it's been ugly the past couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, 5-6 years ago we were on the brink of a Stanley Cup and
Yeah,
we didn't get it,
2015.
and then it all fell apart. But now I think with the new coach and so forth, we got a good direction.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised though if Davidson ends up there. I'm
So to finish our hockey talk, we'd also, because of our segment with notable passings, which is not exactly a fun topic to discuss, but hockey terms, the big loss was Red Kelly at 91 years old, who was a bona fide Hall of Famer. Red Kelly, for our fans, played for the Detroit Red Wings and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
8 cups.
And he won 8 cups, and he had 4 with Detroit, 4 with Toronto. Had almost 900 points, and played with Gordie Howe, and then became a coach. I think he was actually the LA Kings inaugural coach in 1967.
Ooh.
But just a great ambassador for hockey, and so we just wanted to make note that our fans are aware of Red Kelly.
And listen, when somebody that prominent in their sport passes away, we make note of it. I mean, 8 Stanley Cups, and if you're a hockey guy, you say Red Kelly. Oh my God, it's
Right.
unbelievable.
So they had a moment of silence. I think it was Columbus and the Boston Bruins.
Oh, well deserved.
Yeah. So I just want to make mention of that.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's we'll catch up and see what transpires in the next the East and West Conference Finals, which will all be ready to go by probably
The weekend, I would think.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Right.
Be my guess. Sure.
So let's move on to the NBA, because there's been some kind of surprises. But one surprise, I guess, is the domination of Milwaukee over Boston.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think on our last show, but Boston won Game 1 in convincing fashion on the road at Milwaukee. And I think, or my point going into that series is because the Celtics have depth with, Irving and Horford and Hayward and Jaylen Brown and Tatum. And on the flip side, you got the Bucks with, like we talked about,
Probably one of the best players in the game.
yeah,
I mean,
MVP candidate between him and Harden. So, we talked, you could name you 3 guys on Milwaukee outside this Chris Middleton kid or something. But they're sticking it to him, and now Milwaukee's up 3-1, and you got to feel that they're going to eliminate the Celtics, which then obviously turns into Irving done in Boston, and
he's done. There's more to it. There is such disharmony on that Celtics team
I think
right
I
now.
feel that too. I'm not going to be surprised if he bolts Boston.
And they won't even make an attempt to keep him there. I mean,
Most likely not, I think. I don't know what happened to him as far as he's not been good with the media. I don't know if he's happy in Boston, but, then that talk is going to shift, obviously, to the Knicks with the 2 Max guys. And,
Go ahead.
And the fact is, I think, what are we, less than a week away from the fix that's about to happen with the ping pong balls?
Right.
We're
the Kentucky Derby of the NBA draft.
So I think Jim and I think I can speak for Jim, saying, don't be surprised if the New York Knicks land the #1 pick, no matter how it happens. They're bringing Patrick Ewing in, and I think the bottom line is I think the NBA needs New York to be relevant again, and I think with Zion, obviously the consensus #1 pick, that's to be determined. But let's just say that the conspiracy does not hold true. The Knicks are still primed to get a good kid like, Ja Morant or Barrett or...
Well, there's a lot of good talent out there. But, as far as the playoffs go, so, let's assume that, Giannis, and it doesn't seem like he's letting up. So
No,
I don't
he's
think
crushing
they,
it. He had 39 last night.
I don't
He's
see Boston
unstoppable.
coming back from 3-1
I
to take
don't
this.
see it either.
And then they'll march through whoever, whether it's Toronto
Or Philly.
or Philly.
That series is tied 2-2 now. I got to tell you, it's not a very sexy series.
Oh, it's ugly actually. It's not even worth watching.
I'll be rooting for Milwaukee, like we talked about. Milwaukee hasn't been relevant since the early '70s. So, and on the flip side, out in the West, you have actually a pretty intense series going on between the Warriors and the Rockets. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, my thoughts are, I still think that Golden State has, the best lineup in the business, right? And I'm not going to bet against Kevin Durant. I'm not going to bet against Steph Curry. I know they're kind of banged up and so forth. And, like I said, we talked about it. Until Houston can prove that they can win a big game, I don't see them winning.
Well, they won a big game to tie it up. I'll tell you that.
Okay,
But
I mean a series.
I get it, but
you
now
know.
they go back to Golden State, and I would be stunned if Golden State doesn't win Game 3.
Because there's too many players on that team and not enough on
I
Houston.
agree. It's kinda
I mean, if Harden lights it up and scores, 65 points one night, then they have a shot. But I see Golden State, moving on.
But I'm seeing a crack in Golden State, so don't be surprised it goes 7. But if it goes 7, it's in San Francisco. So again, back to the Game 7 thing. You'd always want to be home for a Game 7. But
And all of a sudden, I'm so big on this guy Giannis. I'm pulling for him all the way.
I am too. There's no question.
He's a good kid, and I'm pulling for that. But early signs are I'm looking for a Golden State Milwaukee final. That would be kind of good.
Right, and then the other series we're not talking is Portland Denver. Again, not a very sexy series. 2 up and coming teams.
I don't think either one of them could beat Golden State.
I don't think either one can beat Houston either.
Agreed.
If Houston, gets by the Warriors.
Agreed.
But as soon as the Warriors season's over, and then that Durant and the Knicks talk is going to heat right up. So we'll be, monitoring the situation, and we'll
Certainly
touch
will.
on it on the next show and see where the chips fall.
That's right. So let's move on to Major League Baseball. And one kind of let's start off with. I saw it was kind of a heartwarming thing. Ron Darling, former World Series winner with the Mets in '86, so forth. Thoracic
Thyroid cancer.
Or thyroid cancer. So
It seems like anybody that gets cancer, obviously, it's not a good thing. So, but I think hopefully they got it early enough by where.
And the reason I bring it up, because I think we mentioned it on our show, from a in the booth analyst, I think he's great. I mean, we talked a little bit about his book that seems to be a little questionable and so forth, but as an announcer in the booth, I think he really was polished, knows the game inside and out, and I wish him the best, actually.
Yeah, so we're wishing him the best. I don't dislike Ron Darling at all, but I still have issue with him calling out Dykstra on the racial thing aimed at Oil Can Boyd. We touched on it briefly, but that aside, Darling has been he was a good professional ball player, and like you said, he was
Very polished in the booth. Very polished.
So while we're on the New York Mets connection, I saw, Noah Syndergaard last week pitched a game. I think it was during the day. So what did he do? He did one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And only 7 other players apparently have done this from the pitcher's perspective, is hurl a 9-inning shutout, win 1-0, and be the guy that hit the game-winning home run. I thought that was kind of a unique stat and wanted to mention that.
Well, that was kind of an interesting stat because, obviously that rarely happens and so forth.
Very rarely.
And he moves into, third place on the Mets home run list for pitchers, which was led by Tom Seaver.
Tom Seaver was a great athlete.
Which
Not
doesn't
surprised.
surprise us at
Who else
all.
was up there? Jerry Kuzman, I think, had a couple dingers.
No, I think
remember,
who was second was Dwight Gooden,
Oh, really?
which
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times I saw him hit a home run. Not many, but Apparently he did.
Well, after you do a couple grams of coke, I guess you most you're wired in that bat. Ha ha ha! Couldn't let it pass.
All right, fair enough.
And also, while we're on the Mets are kind of not playing good baseball. They're 3 games under. But this kid we keep touting, Pete Alonso, was Rookie of the Month. He looks like a real good ball player going forward for them. But I think Mickey Callaway may be in trouble unless they turn the ship around real quick.
Well, look, they spent a lot of money to say this is the. They sent it last year that this was, going to be a great year for the Mets, and of course they tanked, and they cleaned house and so forth. It seems like it's going the same way. They started out good, right? They were 11-9 or whatever,
Yeah,
and now they're under 500.
Right, I think they were 10-6 at one point.
Right.
But it's still early. But with the new GM and the expectation level, and again, I am not like the Mets are going to win the division, but I expect them to be above 500. I expect them to improve, and so on and so forth. So don't be surprised if Callaway in another month, and if they are not
Falling out of the
playing
race.
well,
Yeah.
I think a change probably is going to be imminent in Flushing by the Bay.
Right. I just don't think they're going to be competitive enough in the East. I don't think they could beat the Phillies. And, Harper's off to kind of a crappy season.
Well,
for
I'm glad you brought that up because I saw his stats last night. I saw him strike out again in a big spot.
Oh.
He's batting .226. He's got 7 homers, which, again, that's not terrible. And he's got, I want to say, low 20s in the RBI department. But again, for $300 million, man.
You expect a little more.
Right. So,
I guess.
But we'll see how that shakes out, too.
But the Yankees, on the other hand, have really, we thought, they were going to get by with this, Red Cross first, team starting lineup for a while, and
They have.
they have. I mean, but you didn't think it was going to last. And
No, come on. There's guys are calling up now that I don't even know who they are. Right? They called up this Mike Ford. Bird goes down, which is not shocking. But a kid like that, this Ushella kid at third base, has been a great pickup. I think they signed him in the off season, but he's been very good.
Oh my God! With the glove, he's been outstanding with the glove. I mean, and the fact that he's hitting is a bonus.
Right. And pitching, Domingo Herman has actually really pitched very well.
6-1.
6-1, but deservingly 6-1. Loso Siaga, kid came, middle relief, young kid, another good pickup. Or, he was in the system, but he's contributing. But slowly but surely they should get back. Sounds like Clint Frazier will be back soon. I think Stanton is finishing up a rehab. I'm assuming Judge is out for at least another couple weeks.
And they signed this guy Maben, actually, which was a good. That means Mike Ford's days. They gave him a chance.
Well, Ford is back down in the minors, but the point is that they are playing well enough that they keep winning a series, and Seattle's in town now, and they've been playing great. Sabathia is pitching just okay, which is fine for what you expect. Right.
But I think Aaron Boone really knows what he's doing. I mean, that was kind of a shocking hire when they hired him 2 seasons ago, but you got to tip your hat to him. I mean, he's really held this together. I mean, it's been kind of exciting to watch. And yeah, these other big studs, it looks like Stanton, I don't know what's going on with him, but his days in New York could be numbered anyway, because...
Again, he's got 9 years and a ton of dough, and unless somebody wants him, we're picking up the freight on that major league. So,
I know.
But I wouldn't be surprised. Don't get me wrong. I think Stanton, maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm not even sure if he has a buyout or has an option to move at some point. I'm sure he's got a full no trade.
But when I think about him and the way he dominated in the National League. I just haven't seen that in New York to the point where like he's the most ferocious hitter in baseball. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
I've been more impressed with his outfield skills than I have been with him at the plate. And yeah, okay, he drove in 100 runs last year, hit what 30 some odd home runs, but you expect that from a 200 and some odd $1 million guy.
Right.
But for some reason, I just don't see him long term in pinstripes.
And a lot of fans know not a big Gary Sanchez fan. However, since he got back from the disabled list, he's played well. He's batting .274, and for him, that's pretty good. And he's hitting home runs. And
But you brought it up, Steve, last time. He is lazy.
he's a dog.
He does not run out anything.
No.
I mean, if it's not over the fence,
The only
not
reason
running.
he is on the team is because he makes $600,000. When the time comes to have to pay him, unless he is trending up and not hurt and is consistent, I can see them,
is his
dropping
contract up this year? Because if it is, then, if he hits 35 home runs this
He
year,
may
then
have one more year before he's eligible.
after the rookie
But
contract kind of
we
thing.
have a lot of guys like that,
Yeah.
Andujar and Torres and guys like that. So
All right, so baseball's starting to heat up, starting to get into the dog days of summer and so forth. So we'll
Right.
see how that goes.
So let's switch gears real quick back to the NFL and your boy Daniel Jones, who made his rookie mini camp debut this week. And what I found, my first observation was, quarterbacks wear the red jerseys in practice, do not touch. And I just would have assumed he wore number 17 in college, and he's wearing number 8 for Big Blue. And my first thought was he doesn't want to be linked to Dave Brown, who wore number 17 in 1992,
His
who was
fellow
also
Duke.
drafted from Duke. So I found that to be a little eye-catching.
And I think I mentioned before when we were talking about it, maybe it's the Manning connection that
Archie was
Archie
number
wore
8.
number 8.
Hayden wore 18.
But the only other observation, like I said, these were the optional things and so forth. And I think as a rookie, number 1 pick, it's good PR and it looks good. But guys like, Le'Veon Bell with the Jets doesn't show up. They just gave the guy a Brinks truck full of money. Not the money I thought he was going to get, but
nor what he thought he was getting.
But obviously, this guy could care less about PR and so forth, and he's been out a year, so I'm not sure he's going to be the dominant back that they thought they were getting. But
we'll see. We'll see.
um,
But I wanted to bring up Jones because, again, the controversy's still going out there about this pick, and even a buddy of mine, DraftKings or whatever they do, over-unders, and is Jones going to play by week 7, week 8?
I don't know.
Right, so let's assume that the Giants are, say, 2-5 or 3-4, something along those lines. Is that where
You make
pull
the
it?
change.
But you also get statements from Gettleman saying it could be 3 years before this kid sees the field. So the only reason I bring that up, it's because there's so much, two divided camps on this pick. I'm willing to give the kid the benefit of the doubt. The pick is in. He's your quarterback going forward, and we'll see what happens. So what do you think?
And I think, listen, the fact that he shows up for optional, the cards are already stacked against him because it was such a shocking pick, and all the fans are going, "Oh, we wanted, Josh Allen. We wanted that."
Yeah.
But I think if this kid just maintains his composure and so forth, I think it's going to turn out to be the right pick. And this show will still be going on 3 years from now, and we're going to be talking about it, and people are going to say, Sports with Mono and Mono nailed it. Because there wasn't a lot of people that supported that pick. But I did.
All right.
I did.
I just think they should have taken him at 17. But back to the point, if he's your guy, you don't take a risk.
That's
you
right.
pick him at 6, and
That's how I feel about
I'm
it.
not saying anything more on the subject till we see this kid in action in preseason, basically.
All right, so listen, we're gonna wrap up the show, but we know the PGA is coming up, rapidly and so forth, and
Yeah.
um,
We just wanted to bring up, yesterday, golf related, that Mr. Eldrick won Tiger Woods was in Washington, D.C. at the White House to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And that's quite a nice looking medal with the light blue ribbons around it, and it's quite an accomplishment. I mean, obviously, this guy is the greatest golfer I think we've seen
certainly of our
of our
generation.
generation. But, as Trump is, I was watching it, and as Trump is introducing him, the laundry list of accomplishments is really quite unbelievable. Once you hear it verbalized, it really is. His career is just, it's in outer space.
And I've gotten some feedback. I've gotten some texts from people saying, "I don't understand this. This is an all political move and so forth." And actually, Woods is designing a golf course for Trump and so forth. But if you just look at the impact he's had in sports and the audience he's followed, he's been through a lot. He's had some bumps in the
Yeah.
road. I don't know what the criteria is for a Medal of Freedom, but I don't know. I don't have a problem with it because I think a lot of people have come to really admire this guy, admire what he's done, and so forth. So,
I admire his talent. I'm not particularly a Tiger fan. However, I appreciate the talent. And then my other observation was, I can't think of any other active athlete in all four major sports and golf and you name it. I can't think of another active athlete to receive this honor. I'm sure, the superstars of years past that have been long retired would be my guess to have received an honor like this. So I think that just goes to his resume of how special and the impact, obviously, that he's brought to.
and we know guys like I'm sure Ali and Willie
Right.
Mays and Jackie Robinson
Yeah,
have
who
got.
got
But
him.
to your point about being an active, current, in the mix kind of guy, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the criteria was, but I don't have a problem with it.
I
I don't-
can't say I do either.
I don't.
No, I can't say I do either.
But this was, good show, a lot of stuff, and like Steve brought up, if you got some thoughts, A, on the Derby and so forth, and the playoffs and so forth, send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail, and, we'll reference you guys, because like I said, we're starting to pick it up, and we're getting a lot more emails and so forth, and,
And we appreciate the following, and we appreciate the feedback.
so we do our, before we sign off, we do a shout out, and I'm going to give my shout out to Alan Gavin, who I think certainly my little brother Stephen knows about it. St. Joe's ex-teammate of ours, but I saw him the other night, and he said, "Love the show."
Oh, great.
He
Thanks.
goes, "Love the
Thanks,
show."
Gigs. His nickname is Gigs.
And it wasn't just bias stuff. He really said, "No, you guys covered a lot of ground. You had some good insight. It was excellent." And that's my week shout out for Gigs, and we'll call him Gigs.
All
But
right.
he'll be listening week after week, and I'm sure he's going to recognize that it meant a lot to us that he pointed us out.
Well, I appreciate that, Gigs. Look forward to seeing you down the road soon.
Yeah, and before we sign off, obviously, what do we always close with? Our sponsors.
Absolutely. Let's thank our sponsors. And in particular, let's lead off with Monticello, New York, Di Filippi's Bakery.
Yep.
The best cannoli in the business.
Yep.
So walk in there and ask for Carmela, and you're going to get a 10% discount on your order. So Di Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York. Thank you.
And of course, our long-time sponsors was Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, obviously, and Harley Davidson of Utica. They've been with us from the get-go, and one of our newest sponsors, but just as going to be long-term and loyal, is Coriano Trucking Incorporated.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for your support, and thank you to our fans for listening. We really appreciate it, and look forward to some of your feedback on our banter regarding the Derby and send us an email, and we'll certainly bring it up next week.
You got it. We'll see you on the next show, and thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Next time. Bye.